He thought she was just another traveler passing through his land, until she flinched when he touched her hand. That single moment, that trembling whisper, "Gently, please," changed everything he believed about pain, love, and what it means to heal another soul. The storm swept across the plains with a roar, wind howling through the mesquite trees as lightning flashed over the dark horizon. Eli Carter leaned low in his saddle, rain drenching his hat and coat. He'd been out late, checking on the cattle that had wandered too close to the river. He was used to the silence of storms, the loneliness of long rides under angry skies. But that night, something felt different. Up ahead, near the old fence line, a shape stood unmoving in the rain. He slowed his horse, squinting through the downpour. It was a woman, alone, soaked to the skin, clutching a small suitcase like it was the last thing she owned. "Ma'am!" he called over the thunder, his deep voice carrying through the rain. "You'll catch your death out here." She turned her face toward him, and for a moment he saw the ghost of someone who'd run too far for too long. Her hair clung to her cheeks, her dress torn near the hem. Her lips trembled as she tried to speak. "I already have," she said, her voice soft, almost lost to the storm. Eli dismounted without thinking, moving toward her. She looked terrified, flinching slightly as he reached for her arm. "That hand! Gently, please," she whispered. The words hit him like a slap of wind. He froze, realizing how close he'd come, then slowly pulled back, nodding once. He didn't ask who she was or what she was running from. He just offered his hand again, slower this time. "Come on," he said quietly. "You'll be safe at my place." The ride back was silent except for the horse's hooves and the rain. She sat behind him, barely holding on, her shivers trembling through the saddle. When they reached the ranch, Eli led her inside and lit the fire, his movements careful, measured. The cabin smelled of smoke and leather, and the warmth slowly began to chase the chill from the air. She sat by the hearth, hands trembling as she held the mug of coffee he offered. He noticed the bruises faintly visible on her wrist, old marks, fading but not forgotten. "Thank you," she murmured, staring into the flames. "You didn't have to help." He leaned against the wall, watching her from under the brim of his hat. "Didn't seem right to leave you out there." She nodded, eyes distant. "You don't even know my name." "Don't need to," he replied. "Sometimes folks don't need questions, just a place to breathe." Her lips trembled into the faintest smile. For the first time, she seemed to let her shoulders relax just a little. The rain softened outside, and the firelight painted her face in shades of gold and quiet sorrow. She looked fragile, but there was something fierce buried under all that pain. Something that reminded Eli of the wild mustangs that roamed the plains. When she finally spoke again, her voice was barely a whisper. "You've got kind hands, Mr. Carter. Just keep them gentle." And in that moment, with the storm dying outside and the air thick with the scent of rain and smoke, Eli understood that he wasn't just sheltering a stranger. He was sheltering a heart that had been broken too many times. And maybe, just maybe, he'd been waiting for her as long as she'd been running. The next morning dawned quiet. The kind of calm that only comes after a storm has spent its fury. The land outside was washed clean, mud glittering with puddles that caught the pale sunrise, the sky a soft, forgiving gray. Eli stepped out onto the porch, his boots sinking into the wet earth, and breathed deep. The air smelled of cedar and rain, sharp and sweet. Behind him, he heard the faint creak of the cabin door. She was standing there, wrapped in one of his flannel shirts, sleeves hanging past her wrists. Her hair, now dry, fell loosely down her back. She looked different in the morning light, still fragile, but no longer lost. He tipped his hat slightly. "Morning," she nodded, her voice soft. "Morning. I hope I didn't trouble you too much last night." "You didn't," he said simply. "You were cold, wet, and alone. Helping ain't trouble." He turned his gaze toward the fields where mist curled low over the grass. "You got somewhere you're trying to get to?" She hesitated, eyes falling to the ground. "Nowhere that wants me." Eli didn't press her. He just nodded, as though that answer made all the sense in the world. Then for now, he said, this place'll do. Inside, the fire still glowed faintly. He poured her a cup of coffee and slid it across the table. She took it, her fingers brushing his for a brief, accidental moment. She didn't flinch this time. That small gesture told him more than words could. Used to be, she said after a long silence. I thought kindness was just another way to be fooled. Her eyes lifted to meet his. Steady now, though pain still flickered beneath them. But you don't look like a man who lies for sport. I ain't got the time, he said, a faint smile tugging at the corner of his mouth. That smile caught her off guard. She looked down, stirring her coffee, trying to hide the way her lips curved just a little. For a moment, neither spoke. The world outside was waking, the cry of a hawk, the low bellow of a steer, the rustle of wind through wet grass. It was peaceful, and she realized it had been years since she'd felt anything close to peace. As the morning stretched on, she wandered outside, drawn by the stillness. Eli followed her at a distance, giving her space. She paused by the fence, running her hand along the damp wood. Did you build all this? She asked. He nodded. Every board. It's beautiful, she said softly. Strong. Strong don't mean unbreakable, he replied. Something in that line made her chest tighten. She turned to him, her expression unreadable. And what about you, Eli Carter? You strong? He looked at her for a long moment, the wind catching the brim of his hat. Used to be, he said quietly. Now I'm just trying to hold steady. Their eyes met, and for a heartbeat, neither looked away. Something fragile but powerful passed between them, trust maybe, or the ghost of it. She felt it deep down, like a warmth she hadn't let herself feel in years. That night, as the stars blinked over the ranch and the crickets sang, she sat by the fire again, her hands folded in her lap. Eli was across from her, mending a saddle strap. The silence between them wasn't heavy anymore. It was safe. When she finally rose to go to bed, she paused near him, her shadow flickering in the firelight. Good night, Eli, she said softly. He looked up, meeting her eyes. Good night, ma'am. She hesitated, then smiled faintly. You can call me Grace. He nodded slowly, her name sinking into the air between them like something sacred. As she disappeared behind the curtain that served as her door, Eli stared into the flames, realizing that his quiet life on the plains was no longer just his own, and that everything had already started to change.